Good morning. I'll call to order the Board of Directors special meeting workshop for Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Here.
Director Duff,
Present.
Director Martin,
Here.
Vice President Griffith,
Present.
President Sewell.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. And before we get started, the meeting, we do have some very unfortunate news. One of our employees, Grant Fournier, passed away earlier this week. Grant was our collection system operator 2 and a key part of our team here at Mission Springs Water District. Our thoughts are with Grant's wife and his 2 sons. I ask you to join me in a moment of silence to remember Grant. Let's take this time to reflect on the impact he had on our lives and to honor him. Thank you. And I know staff is working on how we can help support Grant's family in this time of need, and we'll share those details as soon as we have them. Item 3, we can skip. All 5 directors are present, and we'll move on to item 4, public input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board?
President Sewell, we do not.
Right. And we'll actually be starting the meeting with closed session, and there is a slight change. Originally, we had 2 items, item 5, public employee performance evaluation, and item 6, threat to public services or facilities. Item 6 will actually be moving to our monthly study session or board meeting later this month. So today we'll only be doing item 5, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, position District Legal Counsel. And with that, we'll head into closed session. All right, we reconvene from closed session. We discussed item 5, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, position District Legal Counsel. We have no reportable action taken today. Items for discussion. Item 8, options for power purchase agreement for energy-related improvements to MSWD facilities. General Manager.
Yes, thank you, President Sewell, members of the board. As you know, we've gone through several different iterations of looking at solar power at our well sites, as well as some of our other properties, including the wastewater facilities. We went through a process where we were looking at doing a similar thing to what we have to our existing facility, where we own the solar field. We were going to do that at all of our sites. However, that did not move forward for a variety of reasons. We talked with the board, got direction that we would like to entertain what they call a power purchase agreement, where instead of owning the facilities, we actually lease the area to someone else, and then we just simply buy the power. So what we have today in this workshop, we have our Kenwood Engineering has a PowerPoint presentation to share the results of our RFP process. Tim, if you're available, please begin.
I am here, and I'm going to share my screen and make sure you guys can all see the screen now, the presentation.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. So Tim Holmes with Kenwood Energy and Donna Boyson is also in the meeting. And we went through this once before. We're consultants. We're here to act on the district's behalf, and we're not contractors, and we're not selling any products. So the project summary is there's not a change in the project. It's just in the delivery method and the way that you'll pay for the project. And as an overview, there are 7 installations. One of them is going to be a large array where the district utility accounts will benefit through a tariff called the RESBCT. And the other 6 are what are considered behind the meter, and they will benefit through a tariff called net energy metering, which is NEM2. There's approximately 4,000 kW DC, which is also 4 megawatts. And it should generate about 10 million kilowatt hours of energy every year. And then there's an asterisk there. The NEM2 projects have to be completed by April of 2026. So that was a sense of urgency that we had to get this process rolling and get done with it relatively quick. So we released the request for proposal for power purchase agreements on May 7th. We received questions on the 24th. We posted the answers on the 31st, and we received 2 proposals on June 18th, one from Staten Solar and one from Total Energies. And so there's a lot on this slide, so I'm going to go through it, spend most of my time probably on this. So the 2 columns are, you know, this project, the power purchase agreement, and kind of comparing it to the old project where you would have used capital, you know, available capital from a capital budget. So the owner, under a PPA, a third party will own this system. Under the old, what we were considering before, the district would have owned it instead of a third party. Under this scenario, under power purchase agreement, there is no project construction cost. It's 0. Where under the old scenario, the district was going to have to come up with $17,817,000 in order to pay for the project to have it built. The difference is the next row, the next line here is, is the energy budget. This line here that I'm highlighting. So that's how you're going to pay for the solar systems. Is under the old scenario, you would have paid $17 million, but you would have saved 1.2 million per year. Under this scenario, you save less each year, but you don't have any out-of-pocket cost. So what happens is you end up, if you complete cash flows, under the PPA scenarios, the cash flows result in a net present value of $13 to $18 million over 25 years. If you had purchased it, it resulted in a net present value of about $11 million over 25 years. And that's more than what was presented to you last time because the rates have gone up. So we just reran the analysis using current rates instead of the old rates, trying to keep things on an apples to apples comparison. So under a PPA, the operations and maintenance of the system is through the third-party vendor that's going to build the system and own it. So they're responsible for all operations, maintenance, and repairs. Under the old scenario where it was a capital project, the district would have owned it. They would have had subcontract to somebody to do operations and maintenance, and then anytime there were repairs required, the district would be responsible for doing the repairs also. Under the PPA, there are no O&M costs per year. In the old scenario, there were going to be $300,000 per year of operations and maintenance costs. And then also very important is the impact to the district's bonding capacity. Since under a PPA, you're essentially paying for it through your energy budget, and you are also reducing the energy budget, you're actually saving money. There's no impact to your bonding capacity. Where in the old scenario, you were going to have to come up with $17 million. You're going to take out a loan or you're going to issue bonds. So it was going to impact your bonding capacity. And then we evaluated the proposal on qualifications and experience, engineering and design, operations, maintenance, and performance guarantee, the purchase price of electricity, and the financial strength of the company. So what we're really saying here that our selection isn't based just on price. It's based on our belief that we're picking the best vendor through all of these different qualifications. So what we are recommending is to go with Staten Solar. They had strong qualifications and spirits. They have a good engineering and design staff. They had the best operations and maintenance track record. They had a very good price, although they were not the lowest price, but they had a very good price. And they had the financial strength to be able to come up with the money to complete the construction. And so the next steps are to execute a contract, the PPA and the lease and the performance guarantee. This slide you're looking at here, it's exactly the same as one we presented to you a few months ago. All we did was take out the things we've completed. We have actually made a lot of progress on the PPA and the lease agreement and the performance guarantee. So we have in here that would take 2 to 3 months and cost $20,000 to $40,000. But I think we're going to shave at least a month off of that, and probably shave $20,000 off of that cost also. And then you have the construction. Once you enter into contract, it's going to take 18 to 24 months for the construction to be complete. We're estimating about $150,000 in costs and consulting, legal fees, and internal staff costs. And that's where we are. And so we're open to questions now.
Any questions or comments from the board? Director Martin? Director Maya? Director?
Yes, just a couple. We were just recently at a conference in which we had the opportunity to listen to a presentation from Terra Verde discussing microgrids. And one of the things they were talking about in the PPA lease agreements was to ask who held the energy certificates, as those are something that could potentially be negotiable. And they also said to make sure you asked for a buyout after they receive all of the federal monies, usually around 6 years or so. Ask if they could provide a buyout of the lease at that time. Are these options sounding something that this would apply to, or did I learn things that don't apply to this?
Nope, you learn things that do apply. The renewable energy credits, which are the greenhouse gas emissions credits, are owned by the district. The PPA company has the right to access all of the tax credits and those benefits. That's what helps keeps the price down. And then the second question was, remind me of the second half of that one.
Are they able to give us a buyout when they are done collecting all of those funds? Can they give us a buyout of the lease?
Yeah, so will be a schedule of buyout values in the contract. It hasn't been populated yet, but it's an exhibit in the contract, and it starts in year 6 or 7. And each year you have a buyout value that's already defined.
Great. Thank you so much for answering those.
You're welcome.
And Tim, I just had a couple questions. Your one slide, I think it's slide 5, where you showed the approximate 300,000 in savings per year. I'm just trying to do the math, and it seems like that's about half of the savings you have on the line below that. Are we getting savings more than just from the energy? Or I'm trying to figure out how that 13 to 18 million comes up.
There is a cash flow that has some assumptions in it. And we're assuming 6% annual increase in utility costs. Okay. So there is a bit of a, if you look at the curve, the savings accelerate at the end of the curve.
Gotcha. And then,
I was going to say, Tim, if you'd like to go to slide 10, we do have that slide that shows.
Yeah, so you can see it's because the energy escalation rate is higher than the assumed inflation rate. The savings kind of accelerate over time, and that's how we end up at the 13 million.
Okay. And then I forget what slide it was, but your timeline, the 18 to 24 months, I just know we have that April deadline of 2026. How confident are they in being able to finish in time?
They're very, very confident, and we are also putting language into the PPA and the lease agreement that we are doing our best to make them accountable for meeting those dates also.
And then how does it work? I believe there's like 7 different sites. I just know the difference between the 2.0 and the 3.0 NIM is significant. Are we able, if they aren't, going to make the deadline to at least have portions of our of those projects be still at the 2.0 should they run long in construction?
Yeah, we would likely focus attention on the 6 NEM projects first. They're a bit, they total about 2 megawatts and the RESBC totals 2 megawatts. RESBCT does not have that same deadline, so we would focus our attention on those 6 projects. And I think I don't think we're going to have an issue getting them all done, but we should have many of them done ahead of the NEM 3 at a worst case scenario.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
And we'll be taking action this month's board meeting.
Yes, we have a public hearing scheduled for the August board meeting on Monday, where we will bring staff report, contracts and things like that to the board for execution. There's no cost associated with it. It's just entering into the agreement.
Okay. And did we have anything else from staff on this?
Danny, do you have anything you'd like to add? No, we didn't.
All right. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Dor, do we have any members of the public online wishing to speak on the item?
We do not.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to item 9, codification review, titles 1 through 3.
Good morning, President Sewell and members of the board. Last month, we looked at our codification and we adopted our code. At that time, we promised that we were going to be going through and reviewing each of the different sections, looking for any circular references, any outdated language, and that we would be cleaning that up. Today's workshop is basically just to give you what staff and our legal team have identified as issues that need to be cleaned up. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just go through rather quickly the first 3 titles. And then if there's anything additional that you guys would like to see in there, anything you'd like to see addressed or more research put into or anything like that, we definitely have time before the next board meeting that we can get those changes made. So I'm going to pull up first section 1, which is one of the 2. I did provide a red line version for you this morning printed. It is one of the smaller ones, is the first section. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in just one moment. So on the section 1, we have a few simple changes. The first one being in 1.01.20, and that is basically the adoption of the code. It will get updated with the new language, with the new resolution based on the one that, if we approve it at the August board meeting. And then on section 1.02, let me see if I can move down that direction.
If I can just clarify what this changes here on the Title I, these were already adopted by the board at the board meeting that the code was adopted. They just weren't included in the code adoption because they hadn't yet been approved. Now that they've been approved, we've gone ahead and added them in. So that's what those changes on Title I are.
I'm sorry, Caitlin, I didn't realize you were joining us. I apologize.
No worries, no worries.
So yes, Caitlin is correct. That's just updating the language there. Section 1.02, if you remember at our last board meeting, we adopted the different changes we took off the programs and public affairs manager on the conflict of interest form. So section 1.02 with the conflict of interest, that is what is identified there. And that all you'll see there on your screen, that aligns with what we changed last month. And then if we move to the second title number 2. I can Zoom to come back up here. I can't bring the share. Yep. I'll get back to my Zoom toolbar. Over here, I'm sorry. Can you do it for yours? I've got it here now. Okay, then we go to section Title II, which is the second small packet that you have. This has a little bit more significant changes. And the first one is the 2.0103. And that's the no smoking in the boardroom. You'll notice that we've gone through and we've added vaping in there, and we've cleaned up the language there. The next one is 2.01.04. And that one is based on the code section that needed to be updated. Caitlin, did you have anything you wanted to add on that one?
Yeah, so all that we did on that one is we, rather than laying out the specific procedure, we just referenced the procedure that's outlined in the code. So since it's been updated, it's been some time since we initially adopted it, there are some small changes. And now every time that gets amended, we won't have to go back and re-amend the code. It'll just reference the procedure that's already outlined.
The next one is 2.02, the elections by division. That's the one that Director Griffith pointed out that needed to be updated. And in that section, you'll see we cleaned up the special appointment language. Before it mentioned at large. Now it actually says within that division. Go to that. Almost there. There we go. I don't like driving, can you tell? And then we also updated before, when this was originally adopted, it was adopted prior to us going to divisions, and it was the resolution language was all talking in the future. Now we've made it so that it is in the correct tense, so that it is accurately reflecting divisions as they stand now. That one is pretty straightforward when you look at the red lines. And then 2.03, which is the next one. This is calling the manner of which when we call a special meeting. The language in there talked a lot about faxing to each of the directors and how we reached out to them. So we've added in language so that we are now in accordance with what the Brown Act actually calls us to do versus our own set of rules. And that goes back to what Caitlin was saying earlier. We've actually referenced the code that we're following, so we're not having to make updates every time the Brown Act's changed. And then in area 2.04, that's the Board of Directors Handbook. In the executive summary on that, we still had the old mission, vision, and values, or excuse me, the old core values. So now we've just updated that to what reflects our current strategic plan and our current values. Yes.
Right after the redlined word service, it says serve.
So service.
Service,
And service, serve. While you're there, right?
Yep.
Picky.
Now better to make it now. Very good. And then I'm gonna figure out the sharing thing, and while I do, we have the lion's share, the one that really don't have a lot of edits from our perspective, because this is probably the area that we bring to you most frequently, which is the personnel handbook. We did make one change though in 3.01.080, and that is dealing with vaping. We added vaping. I'm getting the hang of it finally. Here we go. And that is literally about halfway through your packet. I'm sorry? Probably. It's 3.01.080. There they go. There we go. And it goes back to the no smoking. Thank you, Brian. I learned something new. The no smoking policy there, Rule 8, and you'll see we've added vaping of any kind, smoking/vaping, smoking/vaping. And those are the changes that we've identified that need to be made, that where the section codes and just language need to be cleaned up. But of course, if the board finds anything else that they'd like to see happen, we can do that. We will have a red line version of this in your board packet.
So no cigars.
No smoking or vaping of any kind. Okay,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
I'd like to see it where it says no smoking on any MSWD's property. It does say, I thought it was just the boardroom.
Being two.
We did update that language in Title II to include any district property. So it wasn't just the vaping that we changed, it was also the
Okay, thank you.
where it could be.
Any other questions or comments? And just to clarify, we'll be, all these changes will be one action.
Yes, we will have one resolution that will have all of these lined out, and then you'll take action on that one.
Okay. And I forget how many titles there were. Was it 8 or, I mean, this is a pretty good chunk of the codification so far, right?
We have 9 titles, but we have, I believe, 3 of those that are reserved for future use. So we'll have 3 more. We may break those down into smaller chunks because some of those are larger.
Okay.
I want to make sure you have time to really look at them.
If I can just clarify, there will actually be 2 actions. So you'll have both a resolution that makes the majority of these changes, and then you'll have an ordinance come before you. The election provisions were adopted by ordinance, and so we have to amend those by ordinance. So that one will come forward to you as a separate ordinance. The remainder of the changes will be included in a single resolution.
Great. And again, like Marion mentioned, if you have any changes or anything that pops up, you could email me or our general manager, and we can get those changes to Marion, so we can have a little more time before the meetings next week. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to comments. Item 10, general manager's comments.
No comments, but I would like to thank the board for honoring Grant early when this meeting started. That means a lot to staff, and I'm sure his family as well.
Okay. And I think we'll do that again at the board meetings, just because I know a lot more people, I think,
That
see
would
the
be
board
much
meetings.
appreciated. Thank you.
Item 11, director comments and requests for future agenda items. Director Martin,
Nothing.
Director Meyerhoffen.
This one might sound a little bit off the wall, but I was speaking with General Manager Macy earlier about changing the name of Mission Springs Water District. And I know for the city, that's quite an undertaking. They have to pay all the business owners to do their stationery and everything. The name really doesn't say anything about what we're really doing. I would like to see it maybe Artesian Water District. We have artesian water here. And I think that would really have an impact on not only people moving here into town, that we have artesian water in Desert Hot Springs, but when we go somewhere to represent the district, people will realize that, hey, we really do have the best water. So I don't know what kind of undertaking it would be for the district, but I feel that it would be a lot easier than what the city would have to do. So it's just something to think about and go from there with it.
Thank you. Director Duff. And I just have one. I know Robert had to leave a bit early, but my comment was just thank you to the board. I really appreciate we're able to have really good discussions. Everybody's voice is heard, and I just appreciate the teamwork. So thank you. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.